Hey y'all, hey. It's Move the Ball Monday, and today I am making an attempt at doing these little 15-minute video series because just based on the current climate, some organizations either don't have budget to focus on leadership development or don't have the time to focus on leadership development because things are rapidly changing all the time, or last but not least, the leadership sentiment trickles down. What I mean is, attitude reflects leadership. And so, as you find that in the highest levels of leadership, people are not as concerned about things like burnout, or not as concerned about things like leading with empathy and accountability, you'll find that organizations, some of them, will struggle to focus on it. So, I wanted to create something that was kind of business to consumer, me directly to you, that allowed you the opportunity to learn more about just what good solid leadership could look like. And so, to know no more waiting here, I just want to spend exactly 15 minutes is all I have. We're going to stop at the bottom of the hour. If you have questions, feel free to drop those in the chat while I talk. But the purpose of these is going to be specifically for you to walk away with tips and tricks for leading through burnout, not actually not having burnout. I do have a disclaimer. Oftentimes, people think that that I am just the empathy czar, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I wasn't trained for empathy. I was trained as an engineer. I'm a six systems thinker who's process oriented and always performance oriented. I was concerned about how do you get people to get things done, and so as I find that I'm working with and alongside other people who are empathetic, that oftentimes they struggle with burnout. But I want you to know that I am not historically a person who matches that description. So just want to put that out there. Today, I want to talk about the General Stockdale Syndrome. If you are not familiar with General James Stockdale, he was the highest ranking U.S. naval officer and was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. He was shot down in 1965, and he spent a little over 7 years in the infamous Holo prison, or the Hanno Hilton, and specifically was being tortured. It was in solitary confinement, had severe untreated injuries while he was organizing resistance for the people who were still there. And he developed a vital communication code among the captives. But Stockdale is famously credited for his survival to all of that abhorrent treatment. And he says that the Stoic philosophy was part of what helped him do that. And in doing so, developed what we today call the Stockdale paradox. Now, what is unfortunate is that there are many people who've talked about the Stockdale paradox, but in conversations with Jim Collins, who's the person who wrote the book called Good to Great, if you have not read it, I think it is a good read. Um, Stockdale explained that optimists, people who are always seeking to find the positivity in a situation, were the ones who did not survive that abhorrent treatment in Vietnam. He said those people who told themselves that they would be out by Christmas, only have to have their hopes dashed, would be the ones who would really struggle to survive. And he had this quote, and it was that you must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose faith with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. And I worked for a woman for about 4.5 years named Cy Wakeman, who had a company called Reality Based Leadership. And the thing she said the most was reality is tough and leadership is love, that we cannot argue with reality. And a woman named Byron Katie said, if you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. And so today I want to talk specifically about the Stockdale paradox and this idea that the people who fared the worst are the ones who are always thinking just Pollyanna, that if I think positive all the time, that I might not be the one who to prevail. And that's not because optimism is bad. Listen, I do not like grief, pain, sadness, and loneliness. I am an optimist at heart, but I am a present day realist, eternal optimist. So we don't want to be the people, the kinds of leaders who are saying we'll be out by Christmas, and Christmas came and went. And then we'll say we'll be out by Easter, and then Easter comes and goes, and then we're crushed again. The leaders who are able to maintain hope and also address the current realities are the ones who survive. And so here's what I want to do for you today is to introduce you to a specific couple types of people who would be interested in this content. Of course, there are others, but there are two that I see most of the time. Type one is the toxic optimist, the person who's like, everything is going to be fine no matter what. When reality is saying, look, my employees are not doing what they're supposed to do, my team is exhausted, and the budget is just not budgeting. Okay. But I'm still going to tell myself that we're all going to be fine. Person two is the what I call the empathy martyr. The empathy martyr says this is terrible when reality is saying the employees are underperforming, the team is exhausted, and the budget is a mess. Now, what's the difference between the empathy optimist and the empathy martyrs? It's not the reality. The reality stays the same, regardless of if you are a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person. But the people who struggle the most are the toxic optimists, the ones who are saying, we're all going to be fine, because they get consumed by the facts. But the toxic, the empathy martyrs, the ones who are like, everything is terrible, listen, they're still avoiding the facts. They're just naming that it's terrible, not doing anything about it. And so what I want to do is address today by giving you a simple tool. It is so simple, I'm not sure that you're going to use it. In fact, that's what these 15-minute series are for these things that are just so simple that sometimes people really struggle to do them. First, I want you to just think about, here's the leadership lesson, the mistakes that both the optimists and the martyrs make. Are you avoiding the reality of what's going on? Are you avoiding the reality of what's going on? And if you are, I can't give you the courage to start addressing it. I can't do that. But what I can tell you is that the reality is not going to change because you have your head in the sand. And courage is not the absence of fear. If you're avoiding reality, it is probably because you're afraid of what's going to happen. But fear is not the lack of courage. You can be afraid and still have courage. That means taking action on the reality, taking action on that thing that's still causing you fear. The other mistake that leaders are making is losing hope. Your job is, when you are a leader, to be a hope dealer. If you have a few people working with you and around you, there's still hope. You can usually rally people together to come up with an idea. We just have to be open to what those ideas are. And there's a tool called negative brainstorming. If you're interested in that, send me a note on the website and I'm happy to send it to you. Or send me a note here and I'll figure out how to get it to you. Or you can just Google negative brainstorming. With the advent of artificial intelligence, it has things are at our fingertips. So if you just Google negative brainstorming tool, it'll come up with some things that you can do for when you are starting to lose hope. And people can usually go through that series of activities and come up with something. And if you need my help, I'm always here to help you. But here's what I want you to do right now. When you think about the work that you're doing, and you can do this in your personal life as well, I want you to complete these two statements. And I'm going to give you a minute to do this because, again, we're going to be done at the bottom of the hour no matter what. These series are designed to be 15 minutes or less. I'll stay on if people have questions, but otherwise we're in and out of here. One is, what's a brutal fact that you need to acknowledge? The brutal fact I need to acknowledge is, finish the statement. And you can feel free to tell me in the chat, or you can just jot it down for yourself. This is not an exercise in helping me or helping other people who are on here publicly. This is about you helping yourself. The second one is, the reason I still believe we can succeed is, and then finish the statement. So if I was going to talk about myself and think about a brutal fact that I need to acknowledge right now, it is my chief thought partner was recently sentenced and is on his way to being deported. And half of my business was related to school districts, and that was his specialty. I have not acknowledged that brutal fact. I've just kept moving forward as if nothing there has changed. The second thing I would say for myself is, the reason I still believe I can succeed is, school districts have never been my primary client. They have been the majority of my client. So if I can just differentiate there, I would say that while the numbers were not there, oftentimes the dollars were. And so answer this question for yourself. What are the brutal facts that you need to acknowledge? What's one? And what's one reason you still believe, either in your home life or in your work life, you can still succeed? Now, here's what the assignment is, and if anybody would like to share, you can feel free to do that, and let me know if you want me to put it on the screen or not. But once a week, this is a question you should ask of yourself. This is a question you should ask of your team. What brutal fact are we ignoring? And then also, what evidence do we have that we can still succeed? I'm going to bring up Jim Collins again because he wrote the book called Good to Great. There are some things that I disagree with in that book. The one about making sure that we have the right people in the seats on the bus, it's important on its face, but fundamentally, I don't believe that you just go in places and just start firing people because you think you don't have the right people in the right seats. I think you should spend some time making sure that you have done your job to develop people to have the competence that they need in those seats, one. Or two, make sure that you're even right before you start just willy-nilly going, let me cut everybody off this team and put new people on. But every week we should be asking ourselves these questions. What brutal fact are we ignoring? Lift up the rock and look at the dirty worms. That's a critical philosophy that Jim Collins has in the book Good to Great. And then number two, what evidence do we have that we still can succeed? One of the critical of the 7 strategies for Olympic level performance is celebration. Too often we get more failure because we study failure. We do not always, when things are going well, when things are going good, build on that success. Oftentimes what we do is overcorrect and think only about the things that are negative. Of course, number one is about the eternal optimist, and number two, it's about the martyrs. So depending on where you tend to be, which question is more important to you this week. And the one thing that I want to make sure that you know is that effective leaders don't choose between compassion and accountability. They don't choose between the facts and the hope. They don't choose between optimism and realism. They don't choose between care and performance. It is not a fight against empathy and accountability. These things go together. And if you have been burning out, part of it is, I'm going to do many of these, but part of it is all of that stress and angst and anxiety that is created because we deny reality builds up. All of the stress, angst, and anxiety because we don't know how to celebrate, because we don't want to celebrate, because we are scared what might happen, builds up. And so I want to leave you with this particular quote is that this situation is difficult. Okay. We are not always where we need to be, but I have the confidence that we can get there. Okay. That's the leadership mantra. The situation is difficult. We are not denying that. We are not where we need to be, not denying that. In fact, that probably will never be true. And lastly, I have the confidence that we can get there. And if we can hold both of those tensions at the same time, it's why I call my business lively paradox. It's both and, not either or. We can get to where we need to be. Now, if you ever want to talk, feel free to visit the website, drnicoleprice.com, or use the QR code here. And then if you want more information like this, I am doing a full leadership development session Friday, August 7th at 9 a.m. this year. It is in Kansas City. And you can sign up on the website and pay the fee at livelyparadox.com. If you have any trouble at all with the budget, let me know and I'll see what I can do to support you, because some people do provide scholarships for other people. I appreciate my community in that way. Like I said, these leadership tidbits are always going to be just 15 minutes. It is my attempt at restoring Move the Ball Mondays. I'm likely going to do them whenever I have an opportunity to do so. I'll try to let you know. And then if you are subscribed to my newsletter, which you can also do at either one of those websites, I will always send out the recording. And if you have questions, happy to get to those questions as I can. Enjoy the rest of your day. I didn't see any questions in the comment section. Take care, y'all.